So there has been an amendment in the residential status rules. I think as a final year student, you by now know how people can manipulate their period of stay in India to manipulate the income accessible in India. Now, in very simple terms, I think we all understand this. We say in the hands of R plus OR. Please remind me, in the hands of R plus OR, what is taxable? We say all Indian receipts, and then we say all foreign receipts. In the hands of R plus NOR, we know all Indian, but only one, and this is going to be the critical factor here, only one foreign receipt. In the hands of the NR, only Indian receipt and no foreign receipt. So I believe we need to look at this part just a little more before we decide on what to do. So let's take a case of somebody and I say outside India. Okay, let's now look at a foreign receipt. It is something which accrues outside, which is received outside, and there is no deemed accrual in India. Indian receipt is one which is either accruing in India, or it is received in India, or it is deemed to accrue in India. Now, let's take an example. Let's say there is Mr. X who is residing in Dubai, and I am assuming he is an Indian citizen. He has an Indian passport. He has salary income in Dubai. He has, let's say, house property income. He has interest income. He has any income other than business. Now, this guy, when he comes to India, at the moment what we've done is we've said 182 days. So we are allowing him to come to India, stay for 181 days and still remain a non-resident. How does that affect? If this guy, if Mr. X in India has, let's say, again I'm using salary, house property, interest, capital gains, let's put capital gains down as well, and I'm right now not taking business income. Not everybody has a business income. Now this guy, if he does not fulfill 182 days, he becomes a non-resident. If he does fulfill 182 days, he becomes a resident. But even if he is a resident, he will have to fulfill the 730 days and 2 on 10 to be an ordinary resident, which a person living in Dubai normally I would expect will not fulfill. So he could either be a NOR or NR. In that case, what is the income? Is this income going to be accessible? No. Whether he is R plus NOR or he is NR, his income in Dubai will not be accessible in India. Yes, Indian income will be accessible. Whether he is a resident plus NOR or NR or OR, in all cases it is going to be accessible. That is one thing that I want you to keep in mind. What is the second thing we need to keep in mind? Now, I take this as example A. Let's take example B. Let's take example B. Now, in example B, I'm going to assume this guy has a business. Now, let's assume the business has a head office in India. Okay. And let's say in Dubai, there is a branch office. Now, this individual has started staying in Dubai. So, he is an Indian citizen, but he stays in Dubai. He is residing in Dubai. He has his children in school in Dubai. He has his house in Dubai. He also has a house in India. He keeps coming and going, but from the facts of the case, he can prove that his main residence is in Dubai because his children are in school in Dubai. His wife is also teaching in Dubai and so on. So from the facts, we know his basic stay is in Dubai. Now this guy, when he comes to India, we still have to check 182 days, which means he can either be a R plus OR, which is only if he works or if he stays in India for more than 182 days. I'm assuming if this guy is going to be staying in Dubai, he's going to ensure that he does not fulfill the 182 days. Therefore, I am going to normally assume that this guy would be an NOR or a NR. Now let's see what happens. In case of NR, this is income accrues outside, received outside. It is foreign receipt. This is income accrues in India, received in India. It's an Indian receipt. Now this business income, remember what is an Indian receipt will always be accessible whether he's a OR, NOR or NR. So this is going to be accessible in India. But this one is the only foreign receipt that the NOR is going to be assessed on. So if you are an R plus NOR, the income of a foreign branch where the control is in India is going to be accessible in India. In the hands of NR, that foreign receipt is not going to be accessible. So this is the difference in R plus NOR and NR. And of course, the moment you become a resident beta, and if you are a senior citizen, then you of course get the benefit of the higher slabs. The non-resident does not get the benefit of the higher slab. So this, I say, is the difference between the NR and R plus NOR. However, if I say this is the head office and this is the branch office, so you have the head office in Dubai and the branch office in India. Now what happens? Now remember, the income of the branch is an Indian receipt which will be accessible in India whether you are a OR, NOR or NR. Tara jhagda kiska hai? What is the entire fight on? The entire fight is on the income of the business from outside India, because a lot of Indians, we will soon find out, have managed to set up their affairs of business in such a way that even if the businesses are controlled from India, these individuals running proprietary concerns become non-residents of India, so that their universal or their foreign incomes from branches in Singapore, branches in Dubai, branches in Cayman Islands, branches in London, US, do not become taxable in India. And that is what the Indian government is now trying to address by making this amendment. So let us understand why the amendment is coming in. So he says, if this is the head office, this is a foreign receipt, this is an Indian receipt. Now in the hands of R plus NOR, the Indian receipt is accessible even in the NR, but this foreign receipt is neither accessible in the hands of NOR nor in the hands of NR, which basically means NOR को किस चीज पे टैक्स लगा रहे हैं? NOR is going to be only taxed on one foreign income if the business is controlled from India. Now with this in mind, I want us to understand the two amendments. We will read the Bare Act and then we will discuss and analyze what will be the effect of those amendments on these people. We're going to be reading the Bare Act, because to be able to understand the amendment, we need to understand how the rules for residential status are actually written in the Act. So this is how it works. Section 6, he says, for the purpose of this Act. Section 6, Clause 1, an individual is said to be a resident in India in any previous year if he is in India in that year for a period or periods amounting to more than or equal to 182 days. This is 6, Clause 1, sub Clause A, or having within 4 years preceding that year been in India for a period of periods amounting in all to 365 days or more, is in India for a period of periods amounting in all to 60 days or more in that year. This is Clause C. Clause B was omitted. Therefore, we have 6(1)(a) and 6(1)(c). This talks about more than equal to 182. This talks about more than equal to 60 plus more than or equal to 365. Now, this is what the two basic conditions are. Then we have the explanation. Now, he says, in case of an individual being a citizen of India who leaves India in any previous year as a member of the crew of an Indian ship, or for the purpose of employment outside India, the provisions in subclause C shall apply in relation to that year as if for the word 60 days, the words 182 have been substituted. So we can say, as per explanation 1, clause A, to section 6, clause 1, if you are a person who is a member of the crew of an Indian ship, or you are an Indian citizen leaving India for employment, the clause C becomes, A remains at 182, clause C, we remove 60, we add 182 plus 365. Now, the moment you do this, this one becomes redundant. Therefore, we have inferred that he needs to fulfill only 182 days. I hope it is clear till now. Now, this is the next one. He says, clause B of the explanation 1. Being a citizen of India or a person of Indian origin. Now, we come to a term called person of Indian origin. Within the meaning of explanation to clause E of section 115C. Who? Okay. So before we read further, let's define the person of Indian origin. He says, explanation to 115C, a person shall be deemed to be of Indian origin if he or either of his parents or any of his grandparents was born in undivided India. Now this is interesting. So what is the government trying to do? Now, you say person of Indian origin is a very loosely used term. We feel anybody who's born to Indian parents is a person of Indian origin. That is wrong. This is the explanation. What does it say? Let's take undivided India. When was India divided? So we say 15th August 1947. Now he's used the word if he or either of his parents or any of his grandparents was born in undivided India. Now suppose there is a Mr. X who was born before 1947. Even today, he will be a person of Indian origin. Fine. Now if this guy is staying in USA and he comes to India, we will apply that particular explanation 1 key clause B. His son, let's say, was born after independence. Now the son himself is also a person of Indian origin. Why? Because his father was born in undivided India. Or in this case, we can also assume either of his parents, even if the mother was born in undivided India, maybe the father was born in Kenya, the mother was born in Lahore, then he becomes a person of Indian origin. Then his wife and their children. Now this gentleman, this one, is also a person of Indian origin because his parents were not born in undivided India, but his grandparents, maybe one of them was born. Similarly, the grandparents over here will include her parents as well. So father and mother. So these are maternal grandparents or paternal grandparents who were born in undivided, any one of them. If she was born in Kenya, he was born in US, he was born in London, but she was born in Delhi before 1947, he is still a person of Indian origin. Now his children, if you will notice now, will no longer be persons of Indian origin because neither the parents nor the grandparents, and the grandparents over here could be her parents as well, were born in undivided India. So this is a concept that is probably for 3 generations after independence, which will then no longer be in existence after a particular while. But he is saying if there is a citizen of India or persons of Indian origin within the meaning of explanation to clause E to section 115C, who being outside India. Now this is an important term, who being outside India, which means this particular clause is applicable to Indian citizens and persons of Indian origins who reside outside India. Who being outside India comes on a visit to India in any previous year, the provisions of subclause C shall in relation to that year, as if for the word 60 days occurring therein, the words 182 have been substituted. Now, let's see what that means. That means for this guy, this is India. He's an Indian citizen or a person of Indian origin who resides outside India. And he comes to India during the previous year for any purpose. We say 6(1)(a) remains at 182 days, or 6(1)(c) now becomes more than or equal to 182 plus 365, therefore making clause C redundant. Therefore, he will be a resident only if he comes to India and stays in India for 182 days. But here is where now the amendment comes in. Now listen to this. He says, and in case of, I'm going to read the deleted parts because when the act was amended, these were the words. Then in the September amendment, September 20 amendment, these words were changed. We will discuss why. In case of a citizen or person of Indian origin having total income other than income from foreign sources of more than 15 lakh rupees during the previous year, for the word 60 days occurring therein, the words 120 have been substituted. Now, I'll tell you the problem. First of all, when he uses the word the citizen or person of Indian origin, he then deleted these words, the Taxation and Other Laws, Relaxation and Amendment of Certain Provisions Act. Earlier the words were these, and these were now replaced with the words such person. These are replaced with the words such person. Such person. Now, why have they done it? Because I think it was a typing error. They had written the citizen. They forgot to mention citizen of which country. So the debate would have started, which citizen are you talking about? So उन्होंने ये गलती ठीक करी. They deleted the words and they've used the word such person, which basically means they are referring to these two people because the clause is the same. There is no difference. So ultimately, the amendment is also applicable to these people only. Now, what is he saying? He says, having income, total income other than income from foreign sources of more than 15 lakhs. Okay. So what we now need to do is, we need to bifurcate these into two parts, where income other than income from foreign sources is more than 15 lakhs. And this is less than equal to 15 lakhs. So this now becomes applicable only for people who are having total income other than from foreign sources of less than equal to 15 lakhs. Now what does he say? For these people, what has happened? 6(1)(a) remains at 182 days. And I will do the inferences. Let's first read the law. Or 6(1)(c) becomes more than or equal to 120, but please remember this remains at 365. He is essentially now only looking at changing the number of days for these people who have income over here and making them resident if they stay in India for 120 days, and of course they must have fulfilled the 4-year condition of 365 days. Very interesting. Now let's see what that means. What is income other than income from foreign sources? When we do the definition, he says foreign income is one which accrues outside India, is received outside India, and is not deemed to accrue or rise in India. But when we read the definition, and let's go and read the definition with me, he says foreign income, income from foreign sources, means income which accrues or arises outside India except income derived from a business controlled in or profession set up in India and which is not deemed to accrue or rise in India. Now, I think you will understand what he's trying to say is, while deciding foreign income, income of a foreign branch where head office is in India, this is foreign income, but it is not covered by the definition of foreign income for determining 15 lakhs, which is, it is treated as Indian income for determining the 15 lakh limit. Okay, let's first absorb it. As I said, we will do the questions and the inferences in the immediately next video, but first absorb it. What is foreign income? Income of a foreign branch is foreign income. However, he says for determining the 15 lakh limit, treat that foreign income as Indian income, which means you will add that income to determine the 15 lakh condition. Fine, I'm okay with that. Now, when we go and read the OR and NOR status that is given to us under section 6, clause 6, he says a person is said to be not ordinary resident in India in any previous year if such person is, and this is 2 on 10 and 730 days in 7 years. This is covered by A. This is for HUF, and this is where the new act or the new section comes in. A citizen of India or a person of Indian origin having total income other than income from foreign sources exceeding 15 lakh rupees during the previous year, as referred to in clause B of explanation 1 to clause 1, which is what we are doing. 6(1) ka explanation 1B, where the amendment has come in, who has been in India for a period of periods amounting in all to 120 days or more, but less than 182. Alright, very interesting. Which means what he's trying to say is that, beta, if he fulfills and becomes a resident, he will remain a NOR. He will not be an OR, which means we are not going to check the 730 days or 2 on 10. We are not going to check these. Unless he is satisfying this, then we check 730 days or 2 on 10. Now, I'm sure you appreciate the simplicity with which the law has been written, and there is a pun intended there. My question will be, why is he doing this? What is it going to serve? Whom is he going to catch? We will talk about that. Let's first understand what he's done. So now, keep it in your mind, a person residing outside India, being an Indian citizen, person of Indian origin, if he comes to India, we need to check two things first. Whether his income other than from foreign sources is more than 15 lakhs or less than equal to. If it is more, then we see 120 days. plus 365. If he satisfies 120 and 365, then he becomes a resident, but he remains a NOR till he crosses 182 days. Once he crosses 182 days, we then check the additional conditions and he may then either be a OR or NOR. Just keep that in clear. This is one part. This is one amendment. We also have another one, bache. We are going to look at that one as well. So there is a section 6(1)(a) as well. Notwithstanding anything contained in clause 1. Okay. So he says, notwithstanding anything contained in this, an individual being a citizen of India, when we read the Bare Act, we have to read it very carefully. Where is the person of Indian origin? No, the person of Indian origin is not covered here. He's only covering the citizen of India. Okay. Having total income other than income from foreign sources of more than 15 lakhs. Okay, so this remains the same. This section is only applicable to that person who's an Indian citizen and having total income other than from foreign sources of more than 15 lakhs, which will include the foreign income of the foreign branches during the previous year, shall be deemed to be a resident, Loji, in India in that year, if he is not liable to tax in any other country or territory by reason of his domicile or residence or any other criteria of similar nature. Oh, this is as vague as it can get. What are they trying to do? Well, we will talk about it. His basic logic is, if there is a person, and because of this amendment, a lot of people had started calling us up. I remember there's a friend in Dubai who calls me up and says, Arvind, I'm an Indian citizen. Now, am I a deemed resident? Because if I am, my salary income, my house property income, my interest income, my capital gains income, all of this become taxable in India if I become a resident of India. I said, wait. He has said who is not liable to tax in any other country. I said, you are residing in Dubai. You have a PR of Dubai. You will pay tax in Dubai. He says, you are right. But Dubai does not tax residents. There is no personal tax. Now what do I do? Because I am now residing in Dubai, I am an Indian citizen, I have kept the Indian passport. Will I now be required to pay tax in India on my Dubai income as well? A lot of confusion. So then they came up and they made an amendment. In the initial phase, it wasn't there. They added D to section 6, clause 6. A citizen of India who is deemed to be a resident in India under clause 1A shall also be NOR. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Which means this guy, he shall be a resident, but he shall be a NOR. Now, I think by now you are understanding, if he is an NOR, the only income that will become taxable in India when he was a NR and he is a NOR is the income of a foreign branch. Am I right? That is the only income difference. We've just done that. So he's basically trying to catch the foreign branch income. So I told my friend, listen, bro, these are incomes that are not business income. So you are not affected at all. He says, but I am a resident of India now. I said, wait, we need a clarification. So the government came up with a clarification and said that if you are domiciled in any other country and your income in that country is exempt as per laws of that company, which means you are assessable but you are exempt, then this clause does not apply to you. Very interesting. Then whom does it apply to? So actually what they're trying to catch is people who become non-residents of India and who do not take residency in any other country, which means they're non-residents of every country in the world and they have income in India exceeding 15 lakhs. Then we make them a resident, and because of 6(6) we make them a NOR, which basically means we are only trying to catch their foreign branch income in India by this particular clause. Now I want you to absorb what we've just done, read it. Then we are going to go to analyze and do some questions to understand what the amendment has actually affected on the ground and whether, in my view, it is right or wrong. What we are here to analyze is that there have been two sections that have been introduced, both with a different person who is going to be probably brought within the ambit of R plus NOR. One thing is very clear, that the people who are going to be covered by these two amendments are going to be R plus NOR only, which means all he is targeting is the foreign branch income in India. One is the person who is outside India, resides outside India, is domiciled in a foreign country, maybe has a PR of that country, whether he is paying tax in that country or is exempted as per laws of that country, that person will not be covered by 6(1)(a). So that is very clear. So who is covered by 6(1)(a)? Somebody who is residing outside India, is an Indian citizen and is not domiciled in any other country, which means is not paying tax in any other country. And of course, in both the cases, the income, Indian income plus the foreign branch income is more than 15 lakhs. Now, one of the things that they are trying to do is basically now come to the citizenship. So we already had a source-based rule for the non-residents. We already had a residence-based rule for the resident. Now we are saying the citizen of India anywhere in the world will also be a resident. So we are trying to now, what I would call this is khichdi. We are trying to make everything jumbled into one. And I don't really understand what purpose it is going to be solving, unless of course this clause is greatly defined. Because, you know, let's have a look at the amendment. Now there is a section, section 6(1)(a), there has been an amendment, there is a clarification, an explanation that was added by the Taxation and Other Laws Relaxation and Amendment Act. To understand why it was added, we need to understand what problem it caused. Let's have a look. So he says, for the removal of doubts, it is hereby declared that this clause shall not apply in case of an individual who is said to be a resident in India in the previous year under clause 1. Okay. So basically he's saying 6(1)(a) will not apply to those who are covered by 6(1). Now why is he doing that? Because remember, this section says citizen of India, and he's not used the word residing outside India anywhere here. Has he? No. Which means this applies to every Indian citizen. So what if I am residing in India only, I am an Indian citizen and I am not domiciled in any other country? Am I also covered by 6(1)(a)? Because if I am, then I become a resident, but then I become a NOR, because anybody who is a resident as per 6(1)(a) becomes a NOR. If I become a NOR, you know, my foreign income was earlier taxable in India if I was covered by 6(1) and I fulfilled the additional conditions of 6(6). Then I was a R plus OR, and if I was a R plus OR, my foreign income was assessable in India. But if I say I am an Indian citizen and my income in India is more than 15 lakhs, and now I am a deemed resident as per 6(1)(a), and because the 6(1)(a) is R plus NOR, now my foreign income is not going to be accessible in India. So Indians staying in India would say, okay, fine, please do not cover me by 6(1), cover me by 6(1)(a), and I become R plus NOR. So every Indian citizen in India would become R plus NOR. Now that is how the law was drafted, which of course they've clarified that this clause will not apply in case of an individual who is said to be a resident in India in the previous year under clause 1. So if you are in India for more than or equal to 182 days, or more than or equal to 60 plus more than or equal to 365, or as per explanation 1, you are leaving India as a member of the crew of an Indian ship or for employment outside India, or you are an Indian citizen residing outside India who comes to India, or a person of Indian origin residing outside India who comes to India and are domiciled there, which means you have a PR of that particular country. For them, remember, we have, instead of 60, either we have 182 or we have 120 plus 365 over here in this clause. This is again if income is more than 15 lakhs, if it is less than or equal to 15 lakhs. To these people, 6(1)(a) is not applicable because they are all covered by 6(1). So to whom is it applicable? To whom 6(1) is not applicable? Essentially, if I infer this, you know, if you are a Indian citizen and you don't have residency of any other country, then we will apply this. Then we will apply this. That is the only way at the moment that we've understood. We will look for more clarification. Now I'm going to pick up an analysis or questions that were asked when this section was introduced. So if we look over here, he says, and this is right in the initial stages when section was introduced, a few questions were raised. I like this particular paragraph from the internet. I picked it up. He says, now consider an Indian worker who is residing in UAE as a construction worker and is a resident of UAE for the purpose of taxation. The UAE does not levy any personal income tax for its residents. Now, such an individual will be deemed to be a resident of India as he is fulfilling all the conditions. He is a citizen of India. He is not liable to tax or in any other country. The reason he is not liable to tax there is that he is a resident of UAE and no personal income tax is levied. Then, hence a strict interpretation of the clause will mean that he will be liable to pay tax on income earned there in India. A resident of India is liable to pay tax on his worldwide income in light of Section 5. This, of course, was then removed because in Section 6.6 they said he will be NOR, R plus NOR. So this issue in the beginning when the section was introduced was there, but that was later relaxed. And the condition of more than 15 lakhs of Indian income also was introduced. The same was considered to be problematic by the government. An appropriate statement was issued by the finance minister. The statement, and you must read this. And as a CA final student, please understand, this is the finance minister of India saying it. What we are doing now is that income of a NRI generated in India will be taxed here. If he is earning something in a jurisdiction where there is no tax, why will I include that into mine that has been generated there? Now, the statement by the finance minister is saying that if somebody is earning money outside India, why will I tax it in India? I am only going to tax income earned in India. That is why I have made the amendment. Someone please tell me, without the amendment also, whatever you earned in India, whether you were a non-resident or NOR or OR, it was already taxed. And this is what he says. Whereas if you have a property here in India and you have rent out of it, but because you are living there, you carry this rent into your income there and pay no tax there, pay no tax here. Since the property is in India, I have got a sovereign right to tax. And she is right, but the law already was taxing it. So then why this introduction? So I believe these statements tell me that there was some confusion even in the minds of the finance minister. The statements were created a fuzzier situation as the income which is sourced from India, whether earned by a resident or non-resident, is always taxable in India. It makes the intent behind the introduction of this provision very unclear and makes the provision prima facie toothless. These are experts who are saying this. The clarification issued by CBDT reads as, it is clarified that in case of an Indian citizen who becomes deemed resident of India under this proposed provision, income earned outside India by him shall not be taxed in India unless it is derived from an Indian business or profession. So I think CBDT must have understood that that statement would have caused more confusion. Therefore, they clarified that we are only talking about foreign branches which is controlled from India. So ultimately, both these sections are only trying to catch the foreign branch income. I think that by now, through all the discussion I have done, should be clear. I have tried to cover it from all angles. Now, hence both the statements of the finance minister and clarification of the CBDT are not in tune with the interpretation of the finance bill. The amendment merely states that such person will be deemed resident, and hence if deemed resident, then his worldwide income shall also become taxable. This, of course, like we said, is over. So I don't think we need to read this. I think we've understood. Now I am going to take you through a few examples and let's see from the paper angle, can we solve this now? So let's go through the first one. I said in the first example, we assume that our assessee is staying in Dubai and he does not have any business income. He has foreign income by way of salary, house property, capital gains, other sources, let's say 40 crore. Okay. He has a PR, permanent residency in Dubai. Now I take case 1. He has Indian income of 10 lakhs. Now, let's assume he was in India for 70 days during the previous year, or 130 days, or 200 days. So I'm taking 3 situations and we say up till 1920 and from 2021, what is the change that has happened? Now this guy is a Indian citizen or a person of Indian origin residing outside India, has a PR in that country, therefore 6(1)(a) is not applicable. That is as we understand the law right now. Now, because he has Indian income less than 15 lakhs, less than equal to 15 lakhs, the amendment made by explanation 1 clause, subclause B is not applicable. Therefore, if he was for such a person, we will only see 182 days. Therefore, he is in India for 70 days, non-resident, even now non-resident. even now non-resident, because on this person in this example the new amendment is not applicable. 200 days, earlier also resident, now also resident, and this guy will be OR or NOR depending upon the provisions of the section, which is 730 days and 210. So that part is clear. What if I say the Indian income now is 15 lakhs? Now remember, loss is more than 15 lakhs, so the rule remains exactly the same. What if I say it is 16 lakhs? Now what is happening? Now I say 70 days, 130 days, 200 days. Again we say 19, 20 and 21. Now he was a non-resident then, will remain non-resident now. Now what has happened is he will become over here earlier non-resident, now resident, but NOR. And this resident also only if in the last 4 years he is fulfilling the conditions of 365 days. If it is not fulfilling the condition of 365 days, then he still remains a non-resident. So this is the change that has happened. But even if he becomes R plus NOR, there is no change, because even if he was non-resident, his 16 lakhs would be taxable in India. He becomes R plus NOR, only 16 lakhs is taxable because that foreign branch does not exist. The difference now is, if he is a senior citizen, now the rate of slab will change. Earlier it was a non-resident 2.5 lakhs, now it could be 3 or 5. So ये तो फायदा हो गया. This is now turning out to be advantageous. That I don't think was the intention of legislature. 200 days, again same, now also, and this is covered by 6 clause 1. Now this guy can be a resident OR or NOR, again depending upon the conditions of 730 and 210. But please remember, as long as the period remained between 120 and 182, he will remain an NOR if he is a resident. So that I believe should be clear. Now let's go to the next situation. Now let us assume he has a business which is controlled from India. Now let's say the head offices in India has income of 10 crore. These incomes are 40 crore. Let's say this is 20 crore is the branch office income. Other income in India is 10 lakhs. Now let's see what happens. Okay, just for starters, let me talk about this being 2 lakhs and let's also talk about this being only 1 lakh. Let's just first look at the various options. Now I'm going to take those 3 cases again. He was in India for 70 days, 130 days or 200 days, and last year and current year. So we have 1920, 2021 onwards. Now listen, this is again an Indian citizen or a person of Indian origin residing outside India, has a PR there. Whether his income is exempt there or not, 6(1)(a) is not applicable. So we are looking at explanation 1 clause B. Now he says his income other than from foreign sources will include this, which is how many? 13 lakhs, which means it is less than 15 lakhs. Therefore, there is no change. He still will be covered by whatever other provisions. So, if 182 days will be applicable. So, over here he was non-resident, again non-resident, non-resident, again non-resident, resident, again resident, and then OR or NOR. So, nothing changes. But if I say the income earned here was 7 lakhs. Now let's see what happens. Now of course the income other than income from foreign sources becomes more than 15 lakhs. Okay, let's see what happens now. Now he gets covered by the amendment. So if he stayed in India for 70 days, which is less than 120, he would still remain a non-resident. Now over here he becomes a resident provided last 4 years are more than 365 days. If less, then he becomes a non-resident. That part should be clear. If he is a resident, then he will only be a NOR. If he is a NOR, then please remember only this 7 lakhs becomes additionally taxable. 12 was taxable last year as well. 12 will be taxable if he is a non-resident, but 7 lakhs becomes assessable in India if he becomes a NOR. So probably that is the only income that the government is trying to catch by reducing the number of days of stay in India. This one will be a resident, again a resident, and because it is more than or equal to 182, can be both ordinary or not ordinary as per the additional conditions of 730 and 210. So I hope this is making it very clear. This is branch office. Now let's go to the other one. Let's go to the other one. He says he has income from business control from outside India. So this is not the branch office now. I said this is the head office. This is the branch office. Let's take the first one. This is 2 lakhs, 1 lakh and 10 lakhs. Now let's see what is the treatment. So with me, I believe by now you should be able to answer these questions. So I'm taking the same here. We say 70 days, 130 days and 200 days. Now tell me, how much is his income other than from foreign sources? It is 12. It is 12. Because this is not from a business control from India. So even if this was 7, this is still 12. Even if this was 70, it is still 12. 170 is still 12. So ultimately, the income other than income from foreign sources will only include income from a foreign branch where the business is controlled from India. So in this case, he was a non-resident, 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 resident, resident, again OR plus NOR. Yes, if I say this income is 12, now what has happened is that the income from other than from foreign sources here becomes more than 15 lakhs. Clear about? Now, even if I change this, this was 2, let's say this is 20, still makes it 22. Now what happens? This was a non-resident, 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 and now becomes resident plus again NOR if 365 fulfilled, if not fulfilled then NR, and over here R, and this of course can be both OR and NOR because of additional conditions. Over here we will not see the additional conditions, he is NOR. The only difference being again over here 22 lakhs was taxable, over here also only 22 lakhs will be taxable. Why? Because even in the hands of NOR beta, income of a foreign head office is never taxed in India. So what has changed? Nothing. Yes, if he is a senior citizen, the rate of tax, because he is a resident, now he gets the benefit of the higher slab. So maybe, in my view, and I could be wrong, a lot more thought needs to be given into why this was brought into place and whether they will actually be able to target a lot of people with this or not. So I have tried to explain these. I have now given you questions where we can look at what is the income that is taxable, and we will do those questions in the next video. So beta, let's simplify the law. One of the taglines I use is simplifying complex education, and thankfully our finance minister and the government leave no stone unturned to make the law more complicated than it is, and it is good for us chartered accountants. Do not regret it. If the law becomes simple, everybody understands what to do, then who will come to you? So every day we pray, may God bless them and they make the law more complicated, because only us will understand all these complications. So let's simplify it for us actually. We say the new law that has come about, we need to check what? First, we need to check more than 15 lakhs. And when we talk about income other than income from foreign sources, we look at income which is accruing in India, or which is received in India, or which is deemed to accrue in India, plus foreign branch income. Now that's as simple as I can tell you, foreign branches income, which of course are controlled from India. If this is not more than 15 lakhs, no, then forget the new law, go as per old law, which means if he is residing outside India, comes to India, we look at 182 days, leaving India for employment, and of course the ship, everything remains the same, and of course we take the 60 plus 365 or plus the additional conditions of 730, 210, everything remains the same as it always was. Now we say yes, this is more than 15 lakhs. Now what I need to check is what? Is he domiciled in any other country? And if so, he may be taxed in that country, or he may be paying no tax because it is exempt in that country, but he's domiciled in some country, which means he's a resident of some country. Then 61A is not applicable. If he is not domiciled in some country, then 61A is applicable. So if he is domiciled in a country, then 61A is not applicable. If 61A is applicable, then he becomes NOR. He will not be OR, he will be only NOR. Then, if of course he is domiciled, like the example of Dubai I took, residing there, PR there, whether taxable or exempt doesn't matter, then the period of stay becomes more than equal to 122 or 120 plus 365, then R plus NOR. More than equal to 120 but 365 not fulfilled, then NR. More than equal to 182, then R, and plus we now take both the additional conditions to try and find out whether he is OR or NOR. Now that becomes law as simple as I can put it. What we're going to do is try and do a few questions and illustrations to see if we can solve and understand the practical implication. Now, we say from the following information, determine the residential status with the particulars given here. So we have a Mr. A. So we have a Mr. A, and I can see citizen of India or a person of Indian origin. Number of days in India in the previous year are given here. Number of days in India in 4 immediately preceding years are given, and domiciled in some other country is given. If it is a yes, then this section is obviously not going to be considered. Then incomes are given over here, other foreign income, etc. We need to calculate obviously the residential status and maybe then decide what is assessable in India. I think step number 1, these are people of Indian origin, Indian citizens, and as we can see, they are generally residing outside India. Now, I'm going to check the income other than income from foreign sources. So we say 11 lakhs, which is taxable, total income. Okay. Agricultural income in India is exempt. Income of foreign branch, this will be added. Other foreign income not added, so it becomes 23 lakhs, which of course is more than 15 lakhs. Therefore, we need to look at the new sections. Now, he is in India for 100 days. He is in India for 100 days, which means this is not fulfilling 182 nor fulfilling 120 plus 365, because 120 is not fulfilled. Therefore, this person becomes a non-resident. Now, my question is, can we cover him by 61A and say he's a resident? Answer is no, because 61A is not applicable unless you are not domiciled in any other country. This guy is domiciled. Whether he's paying tax or there doesn't matter. Therefore, let's move to the next one. 150 days. Again, income over here is 23. Income over here is 23. So more than 15 lakhs. Now this is 150 days, which means this is fulfilled. This is 366. This is fulfilled. Therefore, he becomes a resident, but now NOR. Now, if he is a non-resident, what is the income accessible in India? Income accessible in India will only be 11 lakhs. If he is R plus NOR, then 11 plus 12, 8 will still not be accessible. So 23 lakhs will be accessible. Income of foreign branch will come in. Let's go to the last one. Now this guy has 182 days. Now the 365 doesn't matter. He is covered by the first clause. Therefore, he becomes a resident. Now OR and NOR will depend upon the 730-day condition, 2 on 10-day condition. If he is OR, then this plus this is accessible. If he is NOR, then only these are accessible. If he is NR, he is not, because he's already fulfilled the residential status. So this is how we look at the residential status now. Let's take another one. Now in this example, what I've done is I've said he is not domiciled in any other country. Let's see what happens now. No, that doesn't mean that 61A is automatically applicable. No. Remember the clarification that says 61A will not apply if 61 does. So if you are covered by the original residential status rules, 61A is not applicable. It is only applicable when 61 is not. So let's see. I start from the third one. This one is covered by 61. Clause A. This is more than or equal to 182. Therefore, he is a resident. Again, OR, NOR depends upon additional conditions. Data is not there. But he is not covered by 61A. That is what I am trying to explain to you. Then 150 days. Now this guy is covered by 120 and covered by 365. Therefore, he is covered by 61. Therefore, he is a resident. But in this case, NOR. This guy is also not covered by 61A because he is covered by 61. Now 100 days. Now this guy is neither covered here nor covered here, which means he is not covered by 6.1. And because he is not domiciled anywhere else, now we say this guy can be deemed to be a resident under 6.1a plus OR, NOR plus NOR. So this is one person who will be covered by 6.1a, becomes a NOR, and the only difference is this foreign branch income now starts becoming taxable in India. I've also given you another question with detailed answers. I would want you to do this yourself because the answer is there, very, very detailed, given to you. In case there is any issue, you can always WhatsApp me.